Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Angela Austin, and I'm a program manager at National Security Innovation Network. Welcome to the Blue UAS Refresh Challenge Ask Me Anything session. So we're here to field your questions today and hopefully clarify any issues or questions that you have. And the way that we're going to go about that is, first of all, this is going to be recorded and provided on the IdeaScale platform in the Q&A forum. For anybody who misses a piece or wants to refer back to it, it'll be recorded and posted there for your viewing later. And then we will use the Q&A tool. It's in the activities button in the lower right-hand corner. And that has a Q&A function that you can use. So you can go in there and you can start now typing in any questions that you have, and I'll work through them in order. So please go ahead and start inputting those there. Again, it's the activities button in the lower right-hand corner. So it's 3 different shapes. You click on it and then you should be able to scroll down to the Q&A function. And I know that we're still getting a bunch of people joining in. So welcome. Thanks all of you for attending. I am going to do a quick overview. Let's see. And again, my name is Angela Austin. For those of you who just joined, I'm the Challenge Program Manager at National Security Innovation Network. And I'm going to do an overview of the challenge and then turn it over to Trent Emmenecker, who's from Defense Innovation Unit. And he is one of our one of the more technical experts here. And then we will open it up for Q&A and start working through the questions. Please place them in the Q&A function in the lower right-hand corner button is where you find that. So just to start out with, this is the timeline. And again, all of this information is posted on the solicitation, but I just want to emphasize that we have the solicitation closing on the 19th, which is Monday. And then our down selection process will begin there. And then notifications out to those who are considered finalists and selected to move forward will be on September 15th. And the demonstration day will be November 4th through 6th, and that's in 29 Palms at the Marine Corps base there. And then winners will be announced on the 15th of November. The pitch submission requirements, this again is in the solicitation. There's a form in there that if you haven't already submitted that you fill out, and then as part of that you will be required to attach your slide deck, 7 slides in this format here. The scoring criteria is listed in the solicitation as well. I've also placed it up here in case any of you wanted to look at it and ask any questions or we need to defer back to it. So I have it here on this slide. And this is our problem statement for this challenge. And at this point, I'd like to introduce you to Trent Emmenecker. He, again, is with Defense Innovation Unit. So Trent, please feel free to go ahead.
Thanks, Angela. So everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining. We've got a lot of folks on the line. So I will try and be concise in answering and responding to your questions. One, you've read the problem statement. You've read the challenge and what we're trying to do here. Our intent is to fully competitively refresh the platforms that are on the Blue UAS list by both expanding the variety and breadth of what we have, as well as significantly investing in our components and capabilities that also go on the Blue UAS framework. So let me jump into some of the questions. Daniel Bonello, you're going to submit for UAS components. When you do the demo, does it need to be on UAS platforms that are already on the Blue list, or can we demo on a platform that's NDAA compliant? If you're intending to bring your own flying platform, from an ease of use perspective, we would prefer it to be a Blue UAS platform. If that's not going to be the case and you were selected to attend, we would need to know that so that we can include that UAS on our blanket ETP waiver that's going to cover all the platforms, components, and capabilities that come so that we are legal under the law to operate. That said, if you are coming with a component, our intent is that as we demonstrate modularity for our platforms and capabilities, that your component will be able to go on a flying platform that someone else is bringing. So we want to do that real time because that's actually what our tactical end users are going to be doing to demonstrate, does it work, does it not? Next question.
Trent,
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I'll run through the list so that way, as we go through, I can check off which ones were answered and which ones were not. That way I'll be sure to know which ones we need to follow up on, because there's a good chance we may not be able to get through all of the questions in this 1 hour session. So if you don't mind, I'll run through the list that we have so that we can manage which ones we've answered and which ones we haven't. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the next question is from Joshua Morgan. Are you planning to have downlink from each of the UASs, or if this is something that needs to run autonomously?
So Joshua, chime in chat or with a follow-up if this isn't the question. There is a communication link between the GCS and the platform that has to operate. The information coming from the platform has to come back down so that we can see whatever that information is, whether it's a video feed, whether it's flight parameters. We have to know what that is. And if that's your question, great. If not, please put a follow-up in chat.
No, Trent,
And
that helps. Thank you.
Thank you. And then the Daniel Bonello one, is that the same one you just answered, Trent, on, okay. Just want to make sure I'm keeping track here. Okay, next question from Tyler Marple. Are the ideas questions submitted to the Q&A page on DIU site going to be covered, or should we ask them here? Are you talking, I believe you're probably talking about the Q&A page on idea scale. Those will be answered in idea scale. We'll continue to respond to all of those. You're more than welcome to ask it here if you'd like. And maybe have a more detailed discussion on it, but it will also get answered in idea scale. So thanks for bringing that up. So anybody else listening, that's also another format in which you can submit your questions and have them answered, is on idea scale in the Q&A form. And you'll find that on the top of the page in idea scale. When you go to the campaign page in the overview section, there will be a link there to the Q&A forum. The next question is from Ryan Lilly. Are the drones tested to destruction or returned in a reasonable condition?
So I'm going to go back just for 1 second to Joshua's question. The platforms can also fly autonomously. That's perfectly fine. Like, as long as we're operating within the range confines, they can go out on their own route. And Angela, I think I see the questions in oldest to newest, so I'll just go down the list and you just check them off, and I've got that. So Tyler Marple's question was before, you just covered that. Ryan Lilly, drones tested to destruction. We do not intend to destroy anything there at the flight test event. But I want to be clear, if you've looked at the registration form, we understand that there is a risk of potential damage that you have to be aware of. It is not our intent. We don't want that to happen, but the reality is, with the number of platforms that we anticipate, the flight times, something may happen to a platform. So you have to be aware of that and willing to have that happen. If the question is about when we get to, if you were selected as a prize challenge winner, the NDAA compliance verification, then we do physically take apart the platforms or components down to the component and subcomponent level to inspect them. We try not to destroy things, but if you send us a finished platform and, for example, it's got epoxy injected somewhere and the only way to take it apart is to break it, we'll do that. But if and when we get to that point, we don't want to destroy anything. So if you can give us the BOM with a list of all your parts, components, and everything is in a box or a partially assembled fashion so that we don't have to break things, that's what we want to do. Next is Patrick Brew's question for component suppliers. Do you have to demonstrate on a UAS platform or via ground test? It's going to depend on what the platform or what the component or capability you want to demonstrate is. Ideally, and this is our intent and what we are looking for, everything that we test is going to be tested in a real world environment. It's going to go on a platform. It's going to be tested in an interoperable modular environment. So it'll come off or go on and come off. If the only way to test it is on the ground, then that's what we will do. But if the only way to test it is on the ground, that means it's not ready to fly, and it's not going to be qualified under our requirement to be ready to actually be deployed to end users by the date of the flight testing. Ryan's question around expectations around country of origin or being required to meet US standards. So the requirements that we are operating under, there are legal restrictions in the 2020 and 2023 NDAAs around sourcing, as well as the 2024 American Security Drone Act. When it comes to the physical parts and components that go into it, that's the law that we follow. We also do a cybersecurity analysis. If you've read through the prize challenge, we've given you a link to an example of the kinds of things that are looked for. It's not all inclusive, but it is intended to give you a good faith description of these are the things that will be looked for. When it comes to certifications from a company, we understand that you can self-certify your NDA compliance. That is not something that we can just take. We have to actually go and verify it. So we want you to do your homework ahead of time, but the reality in this space is that I think we're all familiar with. Supply chains are fuzzy. People have the very best of intentions often around trying to source things from a non-prohibited country, and sometimes they get things that are from a prohibited country and they don't realize it. So that's why we have to go back and verify. Dan's question around opportunities to be added to the blue list for components that aren't successful as part of this program. What does that process look like? One of the things that we have done for our Blue UAS framework, which is what applies to our components, capabilities, and software like that, is if a component comes through with a platform through our certification and verification process, and it can be parted out, meaning it's a camera or a radio or processor, then we have been listing those components on our Blue UAS framework. If you go to the Blue UAS page on DIU's website, you'll see, I think at last count, we're up to over 75 different components. 6 months ago, we were at 3. We intend to continue to expand that. That's not a guarantee. It's not necessarily the option that you're looking for, but it is an alternative path because we want to provide as many on-ramps as we can to get those components and capabilities there. Roger's question about, are we doing multiple challenges like this in the future or once in a lifetime opportunity? What I can tell you is our intent is, as of today, this is going to be an annual event. We will do a competitive refresh of everything on the list, at least on a 12-month rolling basis. I can't commit to what Congress is going to fund in the future. I can't commit to what the law is going to be, but I can tell you that we intend for this to be a regular, repeated event so that we get the very best products and capabilities on the Blue list and the Blue framework list for our warfighters. We also understand, as everyone on this call understands, technology changes in the space really quickly, needs change in the space really quickly. And as we look at the battlefield, emerging problems come up that we're going to have to solve quickly. 12 months, I understand, is also not necessarily as fast as we should be operating, but within the constraints that we have, that's what we're going for. Jacqueline Blackburn's question, the max slides, 7. Sachin Jain's question, elaborate on fully operational examples that are needed for the submission. If what you are submitting will not be ready on November the 4th for final sales and delivery to an end user, we don't want it. If it's still in the prototyping phase, you're doing development, you need another couple of months. That does not meet the intent and the requirement of this. We are looking for capabilities that are ready to be fielded and deployed as of November the 4th. Ragav Malik's question, do multiple configurations of a platform need separate submission? No, as long as the multiple configurations are something like, imagine it's an SUV made by the same maker. You have your high-end SUV brand, then you have your mid and your budget. It's all the same platform. It's all the same core components, just some of the components that go on it are different. That's fine. All of the configurations would need to be submitted with that one platform, but we understand that a platform could have an EOIR camera, it may have a LiDAR, depending on the size, it could have a lot of other different components. That's fine. Submit them all with the same thing. Nicole Sophie's question, the main benefit for existing Blue UAS members to apply. If an existing Blue UAS customer doesn't apply, then they're not going to be continued on the Blue UAS list. This is something that we've been clear about with our current partners since April. There is no being grandfathered in. There is no guaranteed continued submission. Without prejudging the results, and in no way are we doing that, but it is very likely that some current Blue UAS platforms are going to come off the list. We also know that equally as likely, non-current Blue UAS platforms are going to come on. So if you don't apply, you don't get to be on the list. When your ATO expires at whatever date that is, then you'll be removed from the blue list. Chris Robinson, what's the evaluation criteria for the flight evaluation? Fly with payloads, fly around the range only. Do you have facilities for fixed wing flight or only VTOL? We do have the ability for fixed wing flight. However, we're going to need to know runway type, length, parameters for that, because that may be a limitation. The evaluation criteria is we intend to replicate user operational needs for the specific use case that your platform and or capability has. So that's going to be different for a lot of different platforms, but in general, let's just say it's a Group 1 ISR platform. That is a fairly restricted environment. You know, the range is kind of limited. You know, you're going out to look at things. If it is a Group 3 cargo platform, that's going to be different. The range is going to be different. What gets loaded on it and tested is going to be different. But it's not just can you take off and fly around. It's can you go do the thing you say you are able to do? And can we demonstrate that to the satisfaction of our end users, who are going to be folks from all across DoD, from a variety of operational units, everywhere from SOCOM, the Army, the Marine Corps, different areas, different geographic concerns on their part. They want to see if the things that y'all are bringing can do what they need. And so each platform or component could have its own unique little test card. Everything is going to be standardized, though, in accordance with the measurement rubric that's laid out on the challenge. Does the customer feedback need to be some verifiable customer testimony? This was from Meyer Vicani. So customer feedback is from a DoD customer who actually operates or uses your platform today, that they purchased it under an ETP, or who is giving the team doing the prize challenge a description of, this is the problem statement that I have. These are the things that I'm trying to solve and need a capability for, that I am looking for a solution to come out from the results of this prize challenge. If we can't verify it and it's not from DoD, we don't want it, because at that point it's just unverifiable marketing, and we have to have quantifiable data from people who are members of the Department of Defense. I see the question just popped up. So the Blue UAS project is chartered to answer for DoD only. We do care and are interested about other federal customers, because we recognize that they look to the Blue list. But when it comes to meeting a need, DoD is what we are chartered to do legally. We would be open to other federal agencies providing input and feedback and try and do the best we can to also meet their needs. But as we're chartered, we have to address DoD needs first. Kevin Como's question, the evaluation criteria appears to be platform centric. Are there specific criteria for autonomy or other software enablers? So as you read through the specifications, yes, it's easier to define hardware criteria, but you know, the specific question around autonomy, I almost turned it back, like, what is autonomy? Because it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. At the end of the day, what we're looking for an autonomous platform is something that makes use and operation by the end user to cope with the problem set that they're facing easier. Does that mean that it has to be able to launch, go out, take off, come back and navigate completely by itself? No. Maybe it's something as simple as you have a better autopilot. But the other piece to that is when we're looking at software, we want something that's going to be easily applicable to a wide range of systems and capabilities. I understand that's hard because vendors may make a proprietary platform, but we're looking for things that provide a baseline for modularity, interoperability, and whether you've heard it called MOSA, modular open systems architecture, we want to make it as easy as possible for our end users to port and play, to move things around. For Matt Wright, what type of media is allowed at the submissions? We're not going to dictate what you put. You have 7 slides. What you choose to put in there is up to you. Andrew Simpson's question around clarifying whether a propulsion system falls into one of the above categories. So if it has components within that propulsion system that fall under the 2020 or 2023 NDAA or the 2024 American Security Drone Act, then it is a requirement for us to look at it. If it is just purely a simple electric motor, a propeller, something like that, then no, that it does not need to be submitted to the Blue UAS prize challenge. FX, your question, what do we expect to be covered in the pitch deck? Again, we're not prescribing what you put or what you don't. We've given you the list of the criteria that we are looking at for our evaluation process and what we're interested in. But we want companies to come at us with what they think is the most unique or compelling component or capability that they have that they're proposing. If we try and prescribe or restrict what you do, we run the risk of cutting that off. From Anonymous, is it necessary to submit the hardware BOM if you're already on the Blue list? Yes. Criteria for submissions for everyone are the same, whether you're on the Blue list or not. We still need to have all of these things so that we can do a fair and competitive apples to apples comparison for all of our applicants. Kevin Como, for software only proposals, are there restrictions on the type of UAS and compute hardware the capability is demonstrated on? Does the whole system need to be composed of Blue UAS or UAS framework components? So if you're proposing a piece of software that's applicable to, let's just say, a Group 1 platform or for the ISR space, it's fine if it applies to certain places. In general, we're going to go back to, we want modular and interoperable solutions that can apply to the widest range of platforms out there. And does the whole system need to be composed of a Blue UAS or UAS framework? No, but it does have to be valid under the law, as we talked about a few times now, for eventual potential addition, assuming it wins the prize challenge. So I'll pause for a second and go back just to cover the logistics. So everyone is going to submit their proposals. We will go through and do what we call a down select, where we'll evaluate. We will say, X number of companies are going to be evaluated or invited to the flight test event taking place in 29 Palms. Everyone else will get a non-select letter saying you were not selected to participate in this event. At the event, we do our flight tests, we will evaluate, we will do a second round of down selects to announce the prize challenge winners. Those prize challenge winners are eligible, not guaranteed, but eligible to be considered for inclusion on the Blue UAS list or the Blue UAS Framework list. They are eligible because we have to actually verify that you comply under the law with all of our requirements. If the winners of the prize challenge don't, then they will not be included on the Blue UAS list or the Blue UAS Framework. And that is, I just want to be clear, just because you may end up being a prize challenge winner is not a guarantee that you will be added to the Blue UAS list. Sharir's question around RF signature management of interest. Yes, that's a real world problem. As long as there's a component or capability that can address that, we would be interested in potential solutions there. Brian Catlin's question, is it required to list all scoring criteria in the pitch deck if not applicable? If we've listed something that doesn't apply, which almost certainly is going to be the case if you're supplying a component or software or capability, then no, don't address something that is clearly not relevant. Regarding Malik's question, preferences for any protocols or port interfaces. Again, the more modular and interoperable that your submission is, the better. We're looking for things that give the widest range of applicability and use to the widest range of platforms or components they're going to interoperate with. Justin Ashton's question, for software-only applicants that want to showcase new drone swarming and AI concepts, should we plan to provide a simulator to showcase capabilities? So for a software-only capability, and I'm going to reference this specific one only, we will not have the requisite platforms or quantity to demonstrate a drone swarm. So in that case, a simulator would be the appropriate output. The anonymous question for the pitch deck, quality of demonstration for scoring criteria. Is this an illustration, a link to a video, or will industry be invited to demonstrate our capability? So this is referring to the actual flight events taking place from November 4th through the 6th. How well, and it's kind of an overarching thing, how well does what you brought do what you said it was going to do? Does it do it in the timeline, with the effects, with the capabilities? That's what quality of demonstration means. It's not referencing the quality of your slide deck or anything like that. Ian Rosario's question, are tethered UAS platforms going to be seriously considered in this refresh competition? Yes. There is a very clear demand signal from DoD for tethered options. Shannon Sutherland's question, product info on each slide. Again, we're not going to dictate what you put. We want to understand the capabilities that you're bringing and how they're applicable, but we're going to leave that up to you to paint that picture for us. Daniel Bonello, does an AP&T solution get bundled into GNSS resilience? Yes. Jordan Womanak, are we required to submit open source software in CycloneDX format if the software will be integrated into our platform submission? Yes, and I will confirm that with my technical advisors, but the answer to that is yes. Andrew Schroeder, can you show up to the demo with a partially blue listed platform or a partially blue listed payload? Yes, assuming that that payload is then going to be submitted as part of your fully configured proposal. Yes. Yep, I'm confirmed all software should be included in the SBOM and CycloneDX format. From Shannon Sutherland, do you want customer feedback included on the slides? Again, questions around slides, that's up to you on what you feel is going to be most appropriate to make your case. Youngju Choi's question, does the certificate of incorporation comply with the Small Business Act? I am not sure. Is it mandatory to apply FPV to drones? So we're looking for FPV proposals in this prize challenge. When reviewing the NDAA documents, it states that CUAVs are an exception. I think that means counter UAVs or things used in a counter UAS. We are looking for UAS platforms, not counter UAS platforms in this proposal. There is significant interest, and everyone on the line here understands that in the DoD space, what a UAS platform does, we need to be able to counter. Now, we're very aware of that and interested. So I would say if there's any doubt, Youngju, submit your proposal and we will review it and select or not. But yeah, it's not required to be an FPV drone to submit. Gannon Borcher's question: if you don't win the refresh challenge, can we still be added to Blue UAS list? There are, so one, I want to pause and reiterate to everyone on the line, entry pathways into DoD for UAS platforms. One is via a program of record. That's not a surprise to anyone. Two, anyone within DoD can buy your platform through the submission of an exception to policy, which is just a piece of paper that gets routed and approved to buy a specific platform that's not a program of record or on the Blue List. But within the Blue List, we have two pathways for entry. The prize challenge that we are currently doing, virtually identical but slightly different pathway, is through our CSO process. And then the second pathway is if a service, program office, combatant command, some large DoD organization comes and says, we need a specific capability, and this is what we want. That is also a valid pathway. We have had platforms added that way in the past. There is no fee to remain on the Blue List. We don't charge for admission. We can't do that legally under the guidance we have from our general counsel. The question of how do you improve your chances of getting on the list? You need to have the best solutions to the problems that are out there in the marketplace facing our DoD end users today. That's what we're looking for. Daniel Gold, we understand a flight test is required. Can you clarify whether subsystems need to be tested through integration with a platform, or if a test bed demo would be sufficient? If it can't be operated in its final configuration by the date of the event, then no, it will not be considered. If you're still at the design, testing, prototyping phase where you don't have a finished platform, that's not eligible for submission. Meyer Vicani, customer feedback filled by a customer, the applicants. I will only take feedback directly from end users. I don't want it coming routed through any of the folks submitting to this process. And what you can do is put me in touch via email directly with the customer. You can link us up. I'm happy to receive it that way, but it needs to come directly from them, not through you. I've already answered the question about what to put in slides. From Raghav Malik, a question around a list of subsystems or protocols for which interoperability is expected. We want as much interoperability as possible. And I understand in this space that is still challenging because there's a lack of necessarily common standards. But what we're looking for is, does the architecture on your back end allow for ease of accessibility to the maximum extent possible? Matt Wright, your question around what are we looking for in company viability section, do we need to explain why we're viable? You do need to explain why you're viable. One of our criteria is your business a going concern? Meaning, is it likely to run out of money in the next X number of months? If there are concerns about its financial viability and survivability, we do take that into account through our evaluation process. Cynthia Monroe's question around technical capabilities list includes standardization, open architecture. Can I expand what we're looking for in terms of standardization? To the maximum extent possible, given the caveats I've already discussed, we are looking for submissions that use as much commonly accepted interoperability standards as exist in the space today, or along with that, that create the smallest barriers to developing an interface to allow data to be transmitted from one item to another item. Shannon Sutherland answered questions about the slides. Anonymous question about Blue lists, how many winners? So I've answered the first part. We do not have a set number of winners. What we are looking for is solutions that address all of the needed problem statements and use categories that end users have across DoD. There's no one set number. Will there be tiers beyond the Blue UAS List, which is a flying platform, and Blue UAS Framework, which is all of our other components, capabilities, and software? There will not. Again, in Borchers, 3 fully operational examples needed for the on-site demo. For drone in a box companies, is that 1 base and 3 drones, or 3 drones and 3 bases? We would prefer 3 and 3. Understand, we can be a little flexible, but 3 and 3 is going to give us the ability to separate to different ranges, separated by a number of miles, as well as time and space. It will give us more flexibility to be able to do what we need there. Dan Bonello, what are the biggest challenges DoD has with existing platforms? I'll be honest, I think this is all things that have been hashed out many, many times before. We don't have enough. What we have are too expensive. We need additional capabilities to survive in a contested environment against a near peer. Regard Malik, questions around pricing. I understand this is a challenging thing for folks to do because the price for quantity 1 is different than the price for quantity 100, is different than the price for quantity 10,000 over 3 years. What we're looking for is your good faith ROM on a reasonable variety of quantities over the next 2 to 3 years. Again, this is a good faith and it is a ROM. No one is going to hold you to this, but if it comes to the point where you said it'll cost $300 quantity 100 over 6 months, and you're like, oh no, really, I meant 3,000. That's going to be an issue if and when it ever comes to that point. I've already answered the annual refresh. Operator feedback, we've talked about how our operator feedback be gathered, who are the operators. So when we talk about operator feedback for the refresh event, the actual prize challenge, it is end users from across DoD who are going to be there operating and testing the platforms on site. Those are the folks who are going to be doing it. Does the software bomb need to include QGC skin? I'm not positive what that is, but we'll get an answer for that in just a second. All right, I already answered the operator feedback question from Raghav again. From Paul, the 7 slides represent the entire submission. Will a cover page be counted as one of the 7? No, a cover page with title, company point of contact, email, phone number. We're not going to count that as one of your 7 slides. But as you go through the submission, you will see that in addition to the 7 slides, there are a number of questions that are required, or if they are applicable to your proposal, require for you to answer. There's a good bit of data that's going to go in there. The way we're going to use that is so that we can very easily do a level across the board, apples to apples comparison on capabilities within the same component groups. Dan Gold, question around if electricity passes through it, we want to know about it. So that's a good question. We are not asking for details on electrical components such as resistors, capacitors, or connectors. Probably a better way to phrase that is if data passes through it, meaning there's information flowing back and forth. For the software bomb question, all software packages, plugins, libraries, etc., need to be included on the SBOM, regardless of whether it's GOTS, COTS, open source, etc. Troy's question for the demo, do we want drones equipped with payloads or Bear? We want a representative platform that you think is going to meet the needs of an end user. So a Bear drone that can just fly around and come back and land does not meet the needs of our end user. We want it to have all the capabilities and components that an end user is going to want. I've already answered Matt's question about operator feedback. Anonymous is the HearLink radio. We welcome component submissions for the prize challenge. Thomas M., when will the cybersecurity verification process take place and how will it be conducted? To which date will we have to provide a complete platform for third-party cyber assessment as required? So these things will take place after the prize challenge winners are announced, in accordance roughly with the example that we give in the drone playbook that's posted online. And you will need to be ready no later than 1 week after the prize challenge completion. So November the 15th, when we announce our winners, that is when we will start. Regal's question around preference for products with country of origin. As long as the country of origin is not prohibited under the law, then we welcome that. Jamal's question, is the call open to biotech applications? No. Do all systems need to be flight ready? Yep, I've answered this a couple times. If it's not ready to actually be sold and operated by an end user in its final format, then we don't want it. Barbara Bonner's question, is it a drone-centric submission or is an FPV goggle system applicable? Yep, a goggle system is a component. We would welcome that. We want components and capabilities. We want to make this modular to provide as many options for our end users to ideally be able to say, yep, I like this set of goggles. Oh, I like this radio. I like this controller. We want to give them that choice. Paul's question for current Blue sales of Blue systems to DoD. In this case, the level of detail, I'm fine with a roll up by a quarter historically with the end customer at the program office or unit level. Muad Magari, will a Chinese platform be able to receive a waiver? No. Regards question about restricted country of origin. We follow the ones stated in the NDAA or the American Security Drone Act. Gabrielle's question, is it a PowerPoint that needs to be submitted or a document showing all the elements requested and the PowerPoint? So you have 7 slides plus a form that you need to fill out. Those are 2 separate things. Both have to be done. Matt Wright, what do we expect to see for lifetime sales? So for our non-Blue UAS customers, I'm looking for lifetime delivered sales of whatever you are submitting for consideration. Beyond that, and I recognize this is proprietary information for your companies, we segregate that. We do not share that data. We have folks, anyone who will access any of the presentations will sign an NDAA around this. We keep that very, very tightly held because we recognize this is important data to your company. If you have sales within that overarching number into DoD, I would like to know about that because that will help us make an informed decision around current DoD demand. Paul's question around the intent of the framework to establish an approved list from which systems can be assembled. And if all elements are from that list, the system is approved. Yes, that is one of the goals that we are working towards. End users are very clear that they want to have the ability to pluck individual things from a list and assemble it as they see fit. And then, yes, one of our follow-on goals to that, Paul, is to list via one way or another under our Blue UAS applicable governing documents, that product as a Blue UAS platform. Skipping Regat's questions, I've answered that. Tyler's question, what kind of consideration will be given to systems that are fielded in mass quantities to DoD customers today? If it is an existing program of record, we're not going to look at it because an existing program of record, whether those program offices or services want to or not, can be bought and purchased by other folks across DoD. They already have an option. Whether folks want to do that or not is not our concern. If it's just people have bought a lot and it's not a program of record, then yes, we would still want to look at it. Have all the framework categories been established or can new ones be submitted? If it is a component or capability relevant to the UAS space, ranging from FPV to Group 3, then yes, we want that, especially if it is something that's covered under the NDAA or the American Security Drone Act. What TRL level are you looking for? I think we've answered this. It needs to be ready to fly, be delivered, and operated in its final form by the date. Is there funding available for the competition at 29 Palms in the event of the down select? No, there is not. Rudolph's question is asked in the form that you will need to fill out. Are the U.S. flights conducted by DIU pilots or OEM pilots? Chris Robinson's question. To the very maximum extent possible, we want all flights, tests conducted by operational end users from across DoD. Those end users who are coming have a wide range of experience. Some of them are very new UAS operators. Some of them have been doing this within DoD for 15 years plus. One of the requirements you'll see is to provide a training package ahead of time as applicable. Now, what we do not want to have happen is your system component is complicated. There's a long and detailed training pipeline required to successfully operate it. We're not going to set you or the DoD operator up for failure. So that's why one of the requirements is you also have to supply up to 3 skilled operators to fly and demo your platform or to demo your capability. But our extremely strong preference is we are able to do that, we being our DoD end users. I'm skipping Rogal's question on payload zoom, not relevant. Any electronics with Chinese company of origin, so T-Motor is prohibited. Beyond that, batteries, I don't know what Mouch is, but batteries are fine to come from China. That's not something that's prohibited under the law. Matt Wright's question, the DoD operators, I have that list. I will be matching folks up with, this is your expected platform. This is the training that I want you to do ahead of time so you can show up prepared to operate it. Skipping Rogal's question again. Anonymous's question, customer feedback. You may connect the customer to me. Otherwise, I am seeking that out from a variety of folks, but we have a small team, so if you can connect us, great. Thomas M., your question of interoperability, does this refer to the Army UAS manned unmanned teaming family of systems? It does not. Ideally, we want everything within DoD to be interoperable, but that is not covered. I've answered this a couple times, but just to be clear, you deliver your slides, and then you're also filling out the form, which has a decent amount of separate information that's required. Edgar Poe's question, our product, does it take any video feed? You're looking at being UAS agnostic. How can we understand what feed will be available so we can connect correctly? That's going to depend on the platform. I can't provide that information ahead of time. Paul's question, if a platform can be configured with multiple components on the Blue UAS framework, we don't have to have every possible combination available for testing. Let's just say, and this is a made-up example, but there's 15 cameras on the framework and you can carry all 15. We don't need to test all 15 cameras. We want to test a representative operating environment to demonstrate capabilities, but not everything. We're using components for navigation in contested environments that fall under export restrictions. Components, platforms, anything that you are submitting has to be available for test by November the 4th and done in accordance with all applicable laws and regulations, both within the US and any foreign regulations that may be relevant to the platform's components or capabilities you have. See, Hun's question around component supplier. If you want to submit a component, we welcome submissions of components to this challenge. Daniel Prendergrass's question, NDAA and cybersecurity compliance expected to be complete by the demo date? No, that's what we verify. After the demo date, once the winners are announced, we do want you to do your best ahead of time because that will make the end result easier, but we cannot take a self-certification from a vendor and accept that for NDAA compliance. Skipping Raghav's question, skipping the question around focus of the slides. Dan's question around the categories of UAS, our submission lays out what we're looking for there. Dan's question around examples of INS solutions, we are looking for solutions in the entire space. I can't tell you specifics on that, but what we're looking for are better components and capabilities across the board. Matt Wright's question, if you have two aircraft based off each other, one's just a scaled up variant, as long as the architecture is the same, meaning the software, the thinking pieces, and you're just talking a bigger motor, bigger battery pack, bigger wings, propeller, then that's fine. Does the requirement from Nate to apply to this refresh and related risk of being removed from the Blue list if we don't also apply to the component providers in the Blue framework? Not at this time, no. We've significantly amped the framework over the past 6 months. This is really an additional way for us to continue to expand, but does not apply to framework removal at this time. Edgar, we posed question around where it is. We've told you the range, the base that it's taking place at. Skipping the question around transcripts. Andy Bennett's question, if a non-Blue list platform submits with the intention of being added to the Blue list, can that platform submit or must it have an associated component? Full platform submissions are welcome. Individual component submissions are welcome. With a full platform, we also want you to list the components, capabilities that you anticipate being part of its package that'll be on offer to the sales for DoD customers. Alicia's question, if you use a non-Blue UAS platform, does it need to be compliant as well? There is no way for us to verify NDAA compliance absent doing an inspection because self-certification does not meet that requirement. We will, if that is your flying platform that you're submitting though, have an ETP granted to allow for its one-time test operation during this event. FX's question, what do you expect about NDAA compliance in the pitch deck? Again, you can self-certify your NDAA compliance and that's fine. We're gonna have to verify that. Chris Robinson, one of the criteria was applicability to commercial entities, but you mentioned this is for DoD use. Do we need to make a case or link to civilian use? So part of DIU's mission is to find existing commercial technology and bring that into the Department of Defense as quickly as possible, ideally off the shelf or with only minimal changes. That's what we want to do. When we ask about commercial entities, it is, do you have a large commercial market? Because that large commercial market has ramifications for things like company viability, scale, size, etc. Justin Marston, I don't know what those questions were. Muad Magari, is there a budget expected to be attributed to get to compliance for winners? No. We will do the inspection. That is not at cost to the vendor, but we do require a platform to be produced for us to do that verification. Chad Collier's question, for a component company that makes smart batteries, is there an opportunity for company approval versus listing individual batteries or models? No, we have to approve the individual part number or serial number. We can't approve the company. Dylan's question, assuming they pass the cybersecurity audit, will software only submissions be eligible to receive an ATO via DIU? So software only will fall under our Blue UAS framework. As it's constructed today, any platform or any component or capability on our Blue UAS framework can be used on any Blue UAS platform under the Blue UAS platform's existing ATO. So there's not a need for a separate one. Frederick Bergenfeld's question, is the required information for the bomb on component level resistors and capacitors are higher? Resistors and capacitors are not what we are looking for. Hardware bomb is around processors, chips, memory cards. If it can think or communicate, that's what we're interested in. Whisper Systems question, you have a finished product. We plan to improve manufacturing with a PCB comprising only passive components. We are looking for the BOM of the platform that you are going to submit for test, which needs to be available for delivery to the DoD customer then. Yeah, and just to clarify the question around the ATO for software, framework components do not have an independent ATO. They are allowed to operate with any Blue UAS ATO platform, but not outside of that. For Shannon's question, will non-select leader include feedback and a reason why? No. Nicole Radovich, sounds like it's a requirement for an active DoD customer. If your platform is a DoD cyber winner and has a strong commercial clientele and operation, is this challenge something that can be pursued, or the company platform needs to have an active DoD contract? No, having a DoD contract is not at all a requirement in any way, shape, or form. Period. End of statement. We welcome and are enthusiastic about non-traditional companies that have no relationship with DoD today to submit platforms. Justin's question around looking for TRL 8 or 9 only. Do we expect to award OTAs from this process? DIU will not award OTAs coming out of this. What we will do is for the winners who pass all the required checks, they'll be listed on the blue list. As an outcome of a prize challenge, though, other organizations, services, program offices, et cetera, can put folks on contract from it. Tyler's question, how can you win the challenge and not be added? If you fail our NDAA compliance inspection, or if you fail our cybersecurity analysis. Anonymous, when is the existing Blue list null and void? All current Blue UAS platforms, even if they are not selected, will remain on the list until their ATO expiration date. At that date, if they're not selected, they will fall off. So there's no date where it becomes null and void, but we start adding platforms as soon as possible after the prize challenge, understanding that's going to take some time. We can't verify and do all the work overnight. It's going to take a couple of months, but stuff will start to come on relatively quickly. Stuff will start to come off. And Angela's got her hand up because I think we're at time.
Yes, we are trying. Did you want to stay longer or cut it off at 1 o'clock?
Yep, I can stay longer.
Okay, great, thanks. Then we'll go ahead and continue to run through the questions.
Anonymous question about all verification documents for compliance. So we're looking for the BOM, the software and hardware BOM, and that needs to be submitted at the time of your proposal. Stephen Bofill's question, if we make it through and become on a path for Blue UAS, does it interfere with other programs we may be involved in that eventually require the same aircraft to be blue? No, that would not. I've answered questions about what to put on slide decks. Mulan's question, we welcome submissions for components and capabilities. One, Kim, for software, can you pair software with an SUAS platform that's not blue, but a program of record? Yes, that would be fine. Tyler Marple, is green list certification required for blue? Is there any advantage to green list? Green List is not required for Blue certification. However, one of the strong points of the Green List is you've already gone through an NDAA compliance verification and an initial cybersecurity inspection. So it provides a very solid baseline that we can look to that we know is trusted. Steve Metcalf has a question around specific version and format of Cyclone DX. We'll get an answer for that in just a second. Ryan Lilly, will we keep the UAS after flight testing for immediate compliance? No, we won't. You'll get them back after the flight event. If you were selected as a winner, then we will coordinate shipping at the appropriate date to our inspection process and location. I've answered questions around DoD capabilities. Can a payload provider apply? Yes, we welcome those submissions. We will do the demo by adding your payload to an existing flying platform that has also been submitted to demonstrate interoperability and capability. Jason White's question, I'm not sure what that's asking. I've answered the customer feedback question, answered the cover slide question. Can we provide a threat brief so you can understand the state-of-the-art threats being levied against Blue UAS platforms and operators? This is all open source, real world stuff. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but if you're not aware of what's going on in Ukraine and Israel and Myanmar and other places around the world, then I don't have time to brief you on those threats. How to submit a product that involves two companies and a partner. One makes the hardware, the other makes the software. That's up to the two of you to determine how you're going to approach that teaming. We're looking for one submission though. So we welcome teaming. That's great. Just coordinate and figure out how you're going to do that to solve. Can an FFRDC developed product enter? I'm going to defer to Angela. I don't believe so.
I'll have to follow up with an answer to that one. And again, these will be posted in the Q&A forum and idea scale, so you can find the answer there.
Okay. About how detailed and technical should content be, I've answered what should go on the slides. Will the HearLink Blue that's NDAA compliant be acceptable? If something is already listed on the Blue UAS Framework, then it's already on the framework. So you're welcome to use that. How is AUVSI integrated in this exercise? Do you see future collaboration and integration between the DIU Blue List and AUVSI Green List? As I just said, we view the Green List as an extremely solid place to look for NDAA compliance and cybersecurity verification. It is not a guaranteed pathway or on-ramp, but at a high level, what Green UAS from AUVSI does and looks for are the same things that the Blue UAS process does from our NDAA compliance and cybersecurity verification. We encourage folks within the commercial industry and within the broader federal government to look at them as being roughly in the same place when it comes to verification with the law. Troy's question, if a vendor submits a proposal for a similar capability already on the list, will a new vendor be considered? We welcome new submissions. This is a full competitive refresh. What level of training amount of time will be available to provide to the DIU operators on site? Very little on site. This is why if you're selected, you'll see that in the forms, one of the requirements is to submit a training package ahead of time. If that's available, whether it's simulator-based, operator manual, so that that future operator prepares ahead of time to the maximum extent possible. Monica's question is almost identical to that. 2 trained operators. Here, we are looking for trained operators from the company. Those are going to be the backup folks who, if needed, operate it on the ground during the event. Tyler's question, how long does the certification last for? This is the first of what we anticipate will be a recurring yearly event. So once you're added to the list, our initial ATO runs for 12 months from when that ATO is published. Beyond that, it's up to what the market says about your platform. The market in this case being DoD. As a component provider, can we include it as sales to DoD if it goes to an integrator or manufacturer who delivers the final solution? As long as they're delivering it within the DoD, yes. FX's question for the exact time on the 19th for submissions to be received. Again, I'll defer to Angela. I believe that's listed on the website, though. The anonymous question for the financials of non-blue submissions, what type of granularity do you need? So lifetime sales. But again, this is also where company viability comes into play. So we're looking for, do you have the financial runway to remain a company of going concern for the next couple of months beyond where we are right now? Going back to the specific version of Cyclone DX, the current version of one, which is 1.6, JSON or XML. Asking about where the form is, it's on the IdeaScale website for what you need to submit. Ways a company can get assistance with regulations and authority waivers. If this is referring to something coming in from out of country or something else, we will not get involved. What I will do is for any platform selected, have a blanket ETP to allow them to be flown there. Jason White, question around chipsets and things. Yeah, we understand the reality of the market for where a lot of chips come from. What we have to do is comply with the law. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. I don't understand the anonymous question around OTA. The question around each radio freak separately or submit all freaks under the same radio product is the option. Yeah, submit it all together. We don't want different ones, but if you're capable of multiple frequencies, we do need to know that because we do have range frequency requests that have to go down. Are all BLDC motors from China prohibited? I believe it's only T motor that's prohibited from China. And then the next question is also around T motor. Answered the question around how do you submit a teaming product. We answered, you don't have to go through the green list to get on the blue list. Is there an opportunity to do a correction update during the challenge based on feed in order to address issues and meet compliance requirements? No, there's not, because we're not going to give feedback in the interim. There's the down select, then there's the flight test event, and then the winners are announced. Jake Smith, Air Launch Group 2s be accepted. We encourage all submissions that you think may be relevant to this prize challenge. So Daniel's question around T-motor. So to clarify, it is not strictly prohibited, but there are issues around information sharing in this space. So I need to be careful to make sure I'm saying the right thing. It is not a disqualifier, but there are significant challenges that come with using a T-motor product based off, I believe it was the Department of Commerce. It might have been BIS that had something come out a few months ago. Okay, T-motor. How we test the components? I've answered this question. Country of concern for smart batteries. Yeah, if it is a smart battery, then yes, that is something that we look at. We verify NDAA compliance. Yeah, so the clarification, BIS added T-motor to an entity list. So basically, no information can be transmitted in any way to T-motor, but you can buy motors from T-motor for use. So I realize that is a little confusing. So they can be used, but no information in any way can go back to T-Motor. Is the demo event closed? If you are not invited to participate in the event, then you are not welcome to come. This is for companies, products, and platforms that are invited to participate only. Justin Marson's question, if you are selected as the winner of a prize challenge, other organizations have the ability to take that because it is a competitive process and put you on contract for an OTA. It would not be a DIU contract. It would be up to that service program office, but they would be able to do that. If you have a component that can be retrofitted on a UAS, do you need to choose one from the blue list, or does it have to work across the entire list? It will be impossible to have one thing. I say impossible. We recognize the challenge of having one single component work across the range of what we anticipate being FPV up to Group 3. The intent is to have the maximum amount of modularity possible and interoperability possible, but things that only work with one platform are generally not going to be looked at favorably. We've answered partnering teaming questions. From Trey, will cybersecurity AWRs be accepted if done by another government agency? Likely, yes. We would have to look at their documentation, but yes. Well, we need a separate submission for each aircraft. If the platforms are fundamentally different, yes. If they're the same platform, just a different variant, one has slightly more payload, et cetera, then no. But if they are different platforms, then yes. I've answered about what you can submit. Chris' question, the bomb, that goes in the form that I keep referencing. Answer the T-Motors thing. I'm going to skip the battery question. If we have video links included in our slides, will we actually watch the video? It is up to you to submit information in your slide deck as you think appropriate. Is DIU funding the penetration testing, compliance, and cybersecurity verification? Yes. If you're a component provider, such as radio, should you submit each solution separately? If they are different radios, yes. We have to verify individual part numbers and serial numbers. I covered Sly's question. So the general timeline, we will start as soon as we can after the prize challenge winners are announced. How long that will take will depend on how many components and platforms we select for designation as a prize challenge winner. It will take through the spring for sure. And I'm going to define that as March, April timeframe. Are we expecting the deadline to be extended? No. I think I've clarified on the T-Motor topic. So a T-Motor component inclusion would not eliminate a submission from down select. That is a true statement. T-Motor is on the BIS list. That induces complications, but that is not going to be an automatic down select. And that is the last of the questions. So, Angela, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Trent. So just to reiterate, if you have questions following this event, you can find the recording on the Idea Scale Q&A forum, and the link to that is in the Idea Scale campaign page, and the upper portion that says overview is where you'll find the link to the Q&A forum, and then we'll put this video there. We will transcribe as much as we can within the following days. I don't know if we can get it all in there before the submissions are due. And to answer your question about when exactly the time of day the submissions are due, and that is at 11:59 Eastern time PM. But other than that, you can reach out via challenges@ensign.mil. And I just want to say thanks to you all for being here. We had a great turnout, lots of good questions. So feel free to reach out to us via idea scale or challenges@ensign.mil following this if you have additional questions. Thank you all.